Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Coach Action Jackson, and we're here with another episode of Client Success Stories. I've got my man Donovan here because Donovan did such a great job during the 16-week program. I wanted to bring him on to talk about his experience. Now, his weight, this is crazy, didn't change a bit. He stayed at 220 the entire time. But here's the kicker. He went down from like 24, 25% body fat, cutting it in half all the way down to 12%. Insane transformation. The results, the numbers, they speak for themselves. Donovan, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks.
So why don't you introduce yourself to people? Who are you? Like, who's this amazing Superman that just cut his body fat in half?
Yeah, so I'm Donovan. Like I said, this is my first experience getting some help in the physical fitness industry type of world. And for me, it was kind of a difficult transition because I'm usually the type of person that is going to go and do everything myself, learn everything that I can and go that route. And I've been trying to do that for quite a few years now. And it's just never been anything that's really stuck and been consistent. But then you reached out to me. We had a couple conversations, just kind of got the ball rolling a little bit. And then I realized that I think I could really benefit from being able to work with you. With that, you basically gave me all the information that I would ever need to be able to make successful choices. And I think I kind of took that and ran with it because I finally had the information that I would really be able to excel with instead of finding little bits here and there and here and there. And one of the things that I've told you that it was actually kind of funny because in the beginning, when I got all the information, I was really almost a little bit disappointed at first because I was kind of expecting just like a layout of, hey, do this and you'll be successful. But it ended up being all of this information that I could take and use to be successful on a regular basis instead of just for the short time period of the program. And so I've been able to do that. And what I've done now is it's changed basically everything for me when it comes to food. The things that I buy, it's such a difference now between going to the grocery store and what ends up in my pantry and my cabinets and my fridge from then to now. And I think just that alone helps me make smarter decisions and make better decisions that are easier because I don't have to look at things that are in my fridge and be like, okay, I make this choice or I make this choice. I just have the good choices for myself in there already. And one of the things for me that I didn't even realize is I was severely underfilling myself with protein. So seeing that whole transformation for me, I think really is what made the big difference for me between gaining so much muscle and losing not a whole lot of quote unquote weight is because I had a pretty good frame to begin with and I'm pretty consistent with exercise and everything. But I think being able to fuel that in the correct way made me be able to have that advantage and take advantage of all of that. And then
Incredible.
Yeah, and then I think
lots to unpack there.
Yeah.
Let's take a few things out. Let's pull a few things out. The first thing I want to touch on, you mentioned that this was something that was difficult for you. You always did it on your own. You were somebody who you would learn, you'd figure it out, do it on your own. And now you're not only asking for help, but investing in help. What was that like? What was that like mentally? What was that like in terms of making that decision? Was it difficult? And why all of a sudden did you make that shift and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and ask for help and get an expert in here?
Yeah. So for me, again, I don't think it was something that I would really reach out to do, but I think having you reach out and say, hey, I think you might be able to benefit from this. And then taking the time with me and not just saying, here, buy my product, but taking the time with me and saying, hey, look, these are the things I can do for you. These are the things I can help, and actually putting interest into me and my success, I think really really sold it on me was just, hey, I think this is probably going to be good for me.
Love that. Okay. So you make the decision. Now, the next thing you kind of talked about there was, and this is one of the things that I love and I really pride myself on, is making sure we set people up for long term success. So obviously, we want you to get short term wins. We want you to lose the weight. We want you to see an incredible result. And we've had just insane transformations in a very short period of time. But we also want to set you up for long term success, because what's the point of getting, whether it's a six pack or losing a bunch of weight, if you're just going to gain it back? So we want a long-term solution. So what we do is we try to, yes, give you the step by step, but also give you the why, give you the education, and give you that. And it sounds like from what you're saying is that you got the knowledge and the education to now make better decisions in the future. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and that's one thing for me, like that a lot of people and a lot of things before that I was looking at were just saying, okay, cut this out, cut this out, cut this out, and you'll be fine. But having done this now and looked at all of the different things, there's times where I can have something sweet and I'm like, oh yeah, I can make this fit in my macros, and it's not a cheat, it's not a fail, it's not, and it's just part of my diet now.
Yeah, absolutely. What was that mindset like? Not having to be like super restrictive and cut everything out, but also saying, if I do have, whether it's a piece of pizza or I have an ice cream or something, to not say to yourself, I'm a failure, and have that like the all or nothing mindset. What was that transition like? Because that could be a pretty difficult for a lot of people. And that's, again, another thing that we really like to emphasize and focus on, is that it's not a win or a loss, a failure or success. The lines are so much more blurred, because here's the reality. You're going to eat every day for the rest of your life, just about. Maybe if you're doing a little fasting, you might have a couple fast days in there, but you're going to have to eat for the rest of your life. So it can't be, yes, this is awesome and I'm on the diet, or this is terrible and I'm completely off. We have to blur those lines a bit. So what was that like?
Yeah, so for me in the beginning, again, it was like you said, it was difficult to be able to not be super strict with myself and, okay, I can only eat my cauliflower rice and my broccoli and my chicken, and this particular meal is like, this is my go-to. I had a couple of those in the beginning where I was like, this is my go-to, I'm gonna do it. And then from after that, I was able to kind of realize that, hey, I can take this kind of thing and I can make this food and just slightly different. So, like, one of the things that I would tell everybody in the group that I did that was one of my really favorite meals is I made basically like a chicken fried rice. And in the beginning, when we're doing low carbs, I would switch out the rice with cauliflower rice, but it was still a chicken fried rice, and you can cook it and make it that way. And then when we had more carbs, then you can switch it with rice and you can make rice out of it. So there's all kinds of different ways that we've learned to balance things, and it was nice.
Fantastic. And you also mentioned a little bit about setting up your environment for success. How important was that? Whether it's like making sure that you don't have basically cookies and brownies on the kitchen table or other things, but so many people don't think about setting up their environment for success. And one of the things that I think James Clear said in the book Atomic Habits, which is a fantastic book, by the way, he said something along the lines of, is that people who have these great healthy habits, or they have these habits and have high levels of achievement and success, he said it's not that they're necessarily better than you, it's that they set up their environment to produce and prompt the outcomes that they want. So if they want to eat more vegetables, they have vegetables that are out on the counter, right there in the fridge, available to them, prompting them. I don't have cupcakes sitting on my counter for a reason. I would eat them if they were there. So how important was that?
Yeah, so for me, that was super, super important. It's funny because when we started, we actually went through, me and my wife, we cleaned the entire pantry. We kept some things that were our less good choices, but we took them from being in the front of the pantry and we moved them to the around the corner portion of the pantry so they would have to
There
make
you
an effort
go.
to go find them. But I think one of the biggest things that helped me is I I would always buy when I would go to Costco. I would always buy like the pre-sliced sous vide meat or the pre-shredded rotisserie chicken, and I would keep that just in like a Tupperware in my fridge, because when I was feeling lazy and I didn't feel like cooking or doing something that required a whole lot of effort, it was much easier to just like, oh, here, let me throw this together, versus having to go make a bad choice and, oh, I guess I'm just gonna go get fast food tonight.
I love that. I love that. So you're setting up your environment for success. You're keeping some of the foods around that we'd like to classify more as indulgence foods, not as good or bad or anything, but indulgence foods. You keep them, but you just put them kind of a little bit more out of sight or out of mind so that you're not prompted to be eating them consistently. And then on top of it, now you're making sure that you have healthy choices available that are there. So when you get that urge, or if you get back from work or you just get done with a meeting and you're kind of like, oh, you're stressed to the gills, you have something, you have a go-to, and you don't have to think, you don't have to worry, you don't have to stress. You're not calling up McDonald's or the pizza place. You're like, I literally have the food right here. Why not eat it? So that is awesome. Now, that's what I like to call preparing, right? So there's the will to win is not nearly as important as the will to prepare. That right there is preparation at its finest. And it's certainly one of the reasons why you were so successful. So, okay, next thing is obviously the results. The results were incredible. Weight stays the same. And I think this is so important. And I want to unpack this with you. Did you struggle at times not seeing the scale move? Because so many people, when they're on one of these journeys, the number on the scale is like, it's like life or death. And if it's not moving in the right direction, they're so frustrated, they're so upset, and it's so easy to fall off if the scale's not moving. So for you, the scale didn't move, but the body fat did, the body composition did, obviously the progress photos did. So was it difficult though to kind of just keep going when the scale wasn't moving?
I mean, so for me, it wasn't that difficult, only because I know my body pretty well in that respect. And I definitely knew that if I didn't see progress, that I wasn't going to fulfill what I was going after. And so from the very beginning, I started taking progress pictures. I started checking my fat percentages. I started doing all of these things on a regular basis to make sure that I knew that I was having some sort of impact that wasn't just a number on the scale. And most of the time, for me, it was more the person in the mirror than it was anything else.
I love that. So what you're saying there, and the analogy we like to use is if you ask somebody like, hey, I got this great real estate buy for you. If you want to invest, it's $1 million. And you say, okay, well, where is it at? No, I'm not going to tell you where it's at. I'm not going to give you any details. I'm just going to tell you it's $1 million house. Well, if that's in Kansas City, maybe not that good of an investment. If that's in Newport Beach, California, where I live, that would be amazing. You'd want to buy it immediately. But like these details matter. And so many people just look at the scale and then they think, oh, good, bad, or they get excited or upset. But there's so many more things going on in the body. There's weight, there's body fat, there's body fat percentage, there's body measurements, there's progress photos, of course, there's the image you see in the mirror. There's also strength score. How's your strength going up, relatively or absolutely? There's also obviously your energy levels, how you're sleeping, maybe your recovery if you're using a Whoop. There's all these other metrics that we could look at and measure progress. And if we're seeing progress in those other areas, be damned if weight isn't moving, because we're seeing tons of progress in so many other areas. And weight is only a small percentage of the overall progress that you're making. So I would say maybe 10% of your overall progress is weight. And I'd love that you were able to embrace that and you were able to see all the other things, because that's what kind of keeps you going. Yep. So that's really fantastic. So
yeah,
weight stays the
on that
same.
topic too, on the strength score topic, my strength score went up almost 400 points just through the 16 weeks.
Whoa, that is incredible. I love it. Wow. So think about it. That not only did your body fat go down tremendously, but on top of it, right now you're adding muscle mass, your strength score is going through the roof. That is just incredible. Most people, especially when they're recomping or if they're on a cut by any means, usually they're getting weaker during that process, but you're actually getting stronger, not just relatively, but absolutely, which is great. So that's fantastic. what kind of other advice, tips, tricks, anything would you have for somebody out there who's listening and they're kind of sitting at home? Maybe they're at the start of their journey. Maybe they're just trying to make a decision on something, and they want to be in a position like you, where they get down to 12% body fat. I mean, especially most men, if there's a guy out there listening, he's probably wishing he has 12% body fat, because most people don't. And you're sitting here, gotten the result. Now, what kind of lessons, what advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started on their journey, kind of where you first started?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing was just being consistent. I think the consistency will throw you off so fast if you're not consistent. And it got to a point where I was so consistent that even as I was tracking my time, my workouts through the Tonal app, I was able to see that almost every single time I was the exact same workout day, the almost relative time. Like, being consistent was one thing that just really helped me, because as soon as you stop being consistent is when you're like, I can take an extra day, maybe one extra day, and then things start to fall off more and more and more, and it just compounds. But again, the other thing for me was just being prepared and setting myself up for the days that I inevitably knew that I was going to be lazy, so that I would have good choices and be able to take care of those without having to make a less than good decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so many people, they get started and they want to go all or nothing. Again, black or white, very binary. And you kind of have to be somewhere in between, because you have to have consistency. Consistency, as my good friend Tony Horton would say, consistency is king, queen, and everything in between, because consistency is going to keep you on the path. Now, it's consistent action that is going to get you to the goal ultimately. But I'd rather have somebody work out 5 days a week for 20 minutes than to work out just like once or twice a week for like 3 hours, right? Consistency on the diet, consistency on the workouts. And what most people do is they'll go and they'll work out 5 days a week for 2 weeks, and then they'll take an entire week off because they're so sore, or they get injured, or they're like, I can't keep this pace up. Or from a dietary perspective, they're perfect for like a week, and then the weekend is just complete chaos and anarchy, and they're like, oh, but it's my cheat meal, I deserve it, I was good all week. And then they get back on the scale and they haven't lost any weight. And it's like, well, yeah, like, you can't have this yo-yo weight, crazy perfect or crazy terrible mindset. You have to be somewhere in between, where working in the kind of indulgence foods, as you talked about, being able to fit them into your numbers. And when you do that, now you have real solid consistency and you can see progress and results. When I used to have the very black or white mentality, and it was like perfect or binging, that's not only is that not good for you, but it's also just not a healthy relationship with food. And now my relationship with food and the results I've gotten are so much better, because I'm allowing myself those indulgences. I can have a piece of pizza any day of the week and it's fine. I could have a glass of wine. I could have sushi. I could have an ice cream sandwich. In fact, I eat a lot of ice cream sandwiches, but I'm able to work them into my plan, so that since I planned and prepared for them, I can do it, and I can do it guilt-free, shame-free, and without sabotaging myself, which
Yep.
is awesome. And I know for you mentioned to me a lot, really specifically, that you feel like you're set up for that long-term success. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'm a consistent person to begin with. So I think being able to set myself up over the 16 weeks gave me a good baseline to where now I'm like, okay, I like these things. I like these things. I can do this. These are things that helped me get to where I want to get to. And now I enjoy them quite a lot. And so it kind of just, it propels me now to be in a spot that I want to be. And now I know how to be there. So it really just, that keeps driving me, is knowing that I know how to be there and that I can be there is what pushes that along.
Two more questions for you, because I want to be respectful of your time. The first is, what advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with consistency, who has that all or nothing mentality, and they can't seem to keep the consistency, especially when it comes to their diet.
Yeah. I think, again, for the diet, the biggest thing for me was just like it was having things there so that it was easy. Like I said, the little sous vide slices from Costco, the pulled chicken from Costco, fantastic, so easy because it's always there, and I can take that. I can take a bag of cauliflower rice or a thing of pre-done brown rice, throw it together, and easiest meal, nice, fits macros, and I don't have to worry about it. And another thing that I did too was just like I kept protein bars on hand as like my sweet snack. They were just always in the pantry because if I wanted to have something sweet, it was an easy option.
I love that. That's fantastic. Okay, last question. And I think this is maybe the most important one. Why was this so important to you? Why did you want to do it? And what kept you going during the periods where maybe it was a little more difficult or you didn't want to stick to it or something? Because I think really understanding why you're doing this and having an attachment to that can really be beneficial, because so many people, it's like, oh, I want to lose 50 pounds or I want to, cut my body fat in half, but they're not really connected to any real big, compelling reason why. So if they do it, cool. But if they don't, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And a person who's kind of in that position probably isn't going to get to the result. So why did this matter so much for you? And why were you driven so much to get the outcome that you did?
It helped a lot with my mental health and just being able to have a good picture of myself. It helped me to be a better version of myself that I didn't look down on. It also, I like to be a role model for the people around me, including my wife and my brothers and friends. And I have a lot of friends that are trying to do the same thing. And I like to post and show that, hey, it's doable. If you go through with it and you want to stick with it, it's doable. And one of the things I like to do as well is I always post and motivate all of my friends as well. And I'll tell them, hey, if you want to stick with me and do it, like, we'll do it together, because I think it's good for everybody. And not just me, not just you, not just one person. I think having a group of people around you and being able to help other people makes it really worth it.
Wow. I love that. I want to take a quick second here just to acknowledge you and just to say thank you so much for trusting me, for investing in yourself, for all the hard work, and for exactly what you just said, for being an inspiration and for being an example to so many people. Because I really believe this. If everyone takes a little bit more personal responsibility and everyone says, I'm going to improve myself and I'm going to get to that better version of myself or the next level, and I'm going to push and challenge and get outside my comfort zone and improve myself. Now that is a shining light to other people. And there's going to be a lot of people that are around you. They're going to see that and they're going to say, damn, look at Donovan. He looks good. Man, he's doing it. I bet I can do it too. If he can do it, why can't I do it? Then they get started. They take action. You guys are kind of going back and forth. Iron sharpens iron. And next thing you know, they're better. And then they're inspiring the next people. And then more and more and more and more and more people. And that's the only way that we're going to really put a dent in this health pandemic and crisis that we have. I mean, it's crazy, but like somebody has a heart attack, I think every 36 seconds. And this is exactly how we're going to get out of that, is by one person at a time being that inspiration and that example. And I love it. You are an example to your family. You're an example to your friends and all the people who follow you on social and everything. And you're doing such a fantastic job. I'm proud of you. I'm inspired by you. And I'm just so thankful that our paths crossed. And it's been such a privilege and an opportunity and an honor to be able to coach you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you reaching out to me.